Hi there, we're back for the second hour, and I am waiting for participants who wish to join again. We are talking about the state versus federal and civil rights and how states across this country are denying parental rights, which are fundamental rights under the Constitution of the United States. And the Fourth, Fifth, and Fifth Amendment protect our rights as parents and protect our rights from unlawful search and seizure. And so it is our responsibility and our desire at the Parent Advocate Network to help parents to regain their rights as parents and as citizens of this country. And I welcome all of you who have come to share your experience and information in tonight's meeting. And we are about to hear from Fernando again. And let's see if I can bring Misty back, because she had some important information she wanted to discuss as well. And let's see, maybe Veronica will join us. Say hello to everybody. And hello. Hi there. Open now. We're here. And so what I wanted to do while waiting for people to join us for the second part of our meeting is I wanted to share with everybody. Hello.
Hello.
I wanted to share one of my pages. Hey, have you checked out the new site updates?
No, I have not checked it out yet.
So I've got here state-by-state reform projects. You go to Arizona, if it'll let me go. Oh no! Can you hold on, Ryan? Can you hold on, Fernando? I gotta get my plug. Sorry.
So for you do. Are you there? Hello?
All right, hold on. Just gotta plug her in. But if you guys go and check out the coalitionforprotection.com website, I've been working on putting together these booklets online so that people can just go over to them. Let's see, I'll go to Alabama because I can't see the other ones right now. But each state, that's not it. Wait a minute. Sorry, everybody. Here we go. Let's see. Go to Arizona. Okay. Because each page has like a flip book. It's not doing what I want it to. Why not? Okay, well, stop share. Sorry about that.
Oh, yeah. I just had to try to figure out how to get the voice to go or the audio. It was hard.
Well,
I got it going.
So what we have with the Zoom site, which is talking about how we can write letters to and say how fraudulent all of this is. Okay. And so now here I am at the Arizona State Reform Project page, and what I did is I made it so that this is a slideshow, shall we say, and each state starts with the information for the state. Why is it not showing? It's supposed to. So here's because in Arizona they do have parental rights, Parents' Bill of Rights, and this is in law, but now we need to look at being able to make sure that these laws are enforced. And like Ryan was saying, this state of Arizona has the highest, what would you call it, seizure?
Removal rate.
Removals? Well, I call it seizure. But yeah, removal rate. In all of the country. And so, I thought that it was very important to inform parents who are right now just facing the possibility of their children being removed, that they know what their rights are. And for some reason, some of the pages are not.
Have you heard of?
Go for it.
Have you heard of AJ?
Yes.
AJ is holding the DCS oversight committee.
Right. And I actually have him, I think, in the Parent Advocate Network group. I'm not sure. I'll have to double check on that.
It's a her.
Oh, her.
It's a her.
Yeah. Apologies, AJ. The hope is to bring people together towards solutions, because there's a lot of people out there that are distressed and stressed and confused. And it's hard to organize when you're confused.
Right.
And, it's like my daughter's birthday is in a month. And so I totally understand where people are coming from after having lost their children, because my daughter's turning.
It rips your hearts out, and your feelings, and it takes you down that toll.
Yeah, and I can't say happy birthday to her. Excuse me.
Oh.
Well, earlier, Larry was speaking about, biological parents getting their kids back. And in my situation, I don't know if you know anything about it, Carlos, but I was adopting my baby cousins. There's no way for my baby cousins to go back to their biological parents. None. The biological mother is completely unfit. The father was really struggling at doing it by himself, even with support of having the family supporting him. And there was just no stability for the kids. So, I cut them out? No, I didn't cut them out of their lives. But at the same time, we're also looking at what was safer for them. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
I've raised them all their lives, so that was kind of, I agree. If we can get them home to their biological parents, yes, let's do it. Let's make the path available. But what are we going to do? This is a serious subject. What are we going to do if a parent is not capable of doing that, or is not readily available to do that?
And I agree with that, Ryan, and that wasn't what I was trying to convey, and I apologize.
No, I understand. It's all right. That's another issue that I feel that also needs to be addressed as we go through this. And it's very important to address it, because we do have situations where I don't want to call them bad parents, because they weren't necessarily bad parents. They just weren't. Mother was not mentally capable of doing it. Does that make sense? I don't think cutting her off, I don't think cutting the parents completely off from their children is a smart idea, but at the same time, there has to be a solution that works for the family. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
And if we can do that in my case, Lyra's pretty familiar with my cousin's case. In my case, I took guardianship. I was going for adoption, and mom and dad had supervised visits, which was actually working out really well, because the kids weren't getting hurt and nothing was happening. So that worked out really well for them. And I figured eventually, as the kids got older and more capable of, and parents got more comfortable with the kids, you could ease them back with does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is a society thing, and this is something that we've talked about in the past, and there's a big issue that people don't even want to look at, and that is the lack of family connection, like parents and grandparents that do not connect with each other, and cousins and aunts and uncles that don't, you remember how it used to be that we had family reunions and everybody got together at least once a year and talked about what was going on in their neck of the woods. And yeah, not everybody agreed, but at least they got along together. It was either over Thanksgiving or Christmas holiday
It was
season.
only once a
Right.
day, once a day of the year. Otherwise, the family would kill each other. Yeah, there was just no respect. But see now, when CPS approaches a situation that's very similar to that, I have noticed that they don't know how to handle that.
Yeah,
That's from my personal experience. Is they don't know how to handle families that can actually function in a manner that is in the best interest of the children. Whether it's being cousins being involved in order to help the situation make the situation better, or well, I don't know about grandparents. Some of them are, so I can't speak on that. I'm just a cousin, guys. So but in the process of what happened with me, my son got mixed up in all of this, and Lyra knows about that, and it was pretty devastating for my son. He's 23, and he's suffering the long-term effects of that.
yeah. And yes, there are grandparents out there that are well-meaning and want to be a part of the solution and want to be there to help the grandchildren while their own children recover from whatever trauma or addiction that they may have. But this is not always the case, and it's becoming more and more about power and control over the children than anything
Oh
else.
yeah,
family.
they devastated me when they took the little guys. When they took them all, actually, it devastated me. I mean, I have 5 kids that ran my house. Sometimes it was 12. There's nieces, nephews at my house. So how could I be this big, horrible person that they're claiming? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So when I didn't have the kids no more in the house, it was pretty devastating for me because I didn't know how to function as not being a parent.
When my children were removed, I could not function without noise. So it was like the moment that I got to my home, I would turn on a television or a radio, and then I could do something. But it wasn't like fully functioning. It was just self-sustaining functioning. So I totally understand where you're coming from, Ryan.
Oh, it's usually Disney Channel or Nickelodeon at my house because that's what I had going on with the kids, so I didn't change very much on my kids. Does that make sense? When they're gone, I know they're gone, but I still keep those things just going to keep it's sustaining, like you said.
Yeah. Yes. Well,
So I'm still pretty much sustaining.
Michelle has also joined us again. Thank you very much for joining us again, Michelle. We're very happy that you've come back on. I wanted to just talk a little bit about the Coalition for Protection and of Children and Families. I want to say the whole thing because I know that there's Coalition for Protection. I don't want to get them confused. But the Coalition for the Protection of Children and Families is about family values, okay? And whether or not a parent can properly parent their child, I believe, has a lot to do with their own upbringing. And, there are those cases where mental or addictive situations prohibit a parent from being a parent, but a lot of what we really are combating here is the lack of parenting skills that children who are graduating from high school and from college are getting. They're not getting this information. They're not getting home ec skills. They're not getting bookkeeping skills for their own finances. They're not getting parenting of any kind. They're not being taught any of this. And so it sets young parents up for failure. And that's exactly what the Department of Child and Family Services is feeding off of.
Well, also another thing is that Title IV funding, instead of it going to, foster care, it should be going to reunify with the parents or collecting the skills or obtaining the skills to those parents who don't have the skills, and that funding should be used for that instead of what it's being used for.
Yes, and we have talked about that a couple of times, Fernando, and you are the host of Repeal and Replace, which is
Yep.
online
I still haven't yet have gotten to that, but I definitely will start looking at those laws. And now that the protest is over, I'm going to keep going and looking at these things. Title IV is my main issue, is because it's not being used for what it's supposed to. And the thing is, the state obtains that money and then they get as much money from it as possible. But if it wasn't for them and it was for the parents, they would be less obligated to do something of what they're doing, and it would change the circumstances for those parents and allow them to reunite.
Karen,
sorry.
No, it's all right.
I absolutely agree. With the Title IV, the idea that it's really important to educate the public about Title IV funding, because at the end of the day, a lot of people that have never been through it won't really care until they've been through it, but they will possibly care about the fact that they're paying for it. And
right.
It's a message that in the very beginning I believe that would just resonate with people, but it didn't. But there has been there's actually a child psychiatrist that's on my mailing list that shows up for my events every so often. And do you know why? He's a child psychiatrist. In some ways, we're fighting against him because we're fighting against the over-medication of children in foster care. But he supports us because he told me one day, he called me, he said, I'm a closet Republican. It's the funding. I swear to God, he shows up he didn't come last Friday, Fernando, because he accidentally came the Friday before, but he would have been there.
Wow.
Child psychiatrist. It comes down to the money. That's why.
Well, I have two psychologists that have been caring for me for the past 6 years, and they are authorities with the Department of Child and Family Services. But in my particular case, they were completely ignored from the very beginning. And this has caused both of them to stop helping the Department of Child and Family Services. So even the psychologists and psychiatrists who were hired to do their job for the Department of Children's Family Services are no longer agreeing with the policies and the procedures the Department of Family and Children's Services. Sorry, I'm getting a little...
Believe it or not, there is actual attorneys out there who support what these protests are doing. Even though that they may be bar attorneys, they do support it. And there's very few of them. We need to open up that door where there's a lot more of them.
Well, here's what, I'm glad you mentioned that, because, so there's one issue with why we have been having some issue picking up momentum, and also with our lobbying efforts, is that a lot of people going through this were in this boat because we were poor. That's why they took advantage of us, and because we couldn't afford to fight them. But you know what? We do have a lot of money in civil litigation, and there's a lot of money. It's actually not that hard to sue CPS and win because they're sloppy. I mean, they are really sloppy because they're so used to getting away with it. And hopefully, my hopes are in this Sean McMillan, is probably the pioneer, the trailblazer in this, and trying to convert more personal injury lawyers into this area of law. So I hope that's something everyone can get on board. Just go out there, and I managed to turn one civil attorney towards our side. He's actually my attorney right now. My case is the first dependency case he's ever taken, and now he's fully on board with us now. So that's just one, but we need like maybe a few hundred more for it to make a difference.
We're gonna.
So I think what's that?
Oh, go ahead, finish.
Yeah, and I don't really know how we go about doing that, but I guess there's a lot of personal injury lawyers out there that just don't have enough work, and it's not because they're not good attorneys. It's just it's not always that easy to squeak out, to find the cases that they're looking for. But if we can convert those attorneys to CPS attorneys, they will have cases. They will be overwhelmed with people calling them.
There's a lot of
totally agree.
civil rights violations. So let Ryan go first and then Fernando, okay?
Kind of wanted to dip back to what Lyra was saying about psychiatrists and therapists, and I've had a therapist hang in there with the last 9 years, was there from the beginning, and the psychiatrist looks at me and he goes, "You don't have a psychological problem, you have a CPS problem." That's exactly what he said. He goes, "I don't want to see you back in my office because they had me diagnosed as SMI. CPS got me diagnosed as SMI." And he just looked at me, he's like, I ain't doing this. He's all like, "Give me the paperwork." And he just did psychological. Are you homicidal? I was like, "No." "Are you suicidal?" He said, "No." He goes, "Do you hate CPS?" I said, "Yes." He goes, "Okay, that's understandable." PTSD by CPS is what he marked on my records. And he goes, "I don't want to see you back in my office because you don't need medication. You need CPS to drop off the planet." That's exactly what he said to me.
Wow. I wish I think I could probably get my psychologist to do that now for me, right? PTSD.
Maybe we could
Yes.
coin a new syndrome, CPS syndrome.
Yeah, there you
Oh,
go.
God. It was
PTSD by CPS.
Yeah, no, my son has it on his records. PTSD by CPS on his records too.
PTSD by CPS. Get your psychologist or psychiatrist to write that down.
Wow.
Everybody.
Holy
That's
shit.
awesome.
You got 2
Family-
people in Arizona that got it on their records that it was by CPS cause of PTSD.
Right. Well, and
By
that's they also
separation of your family, PTSD. Separation, PTSD.
It was,
Separation
you know, I
anxiety.
found it funny. They
Yeah,
sent me
they
to
give
5
children that all the time.
Yes, separation anxiety. All 3 of my kids suffer from it. My 6-month-old, when he was taken, the foster parent who was an emergency shelter care foster parent at the time, although they paid for them to become permanent foster care parents for me and my family, but they were saying that my infant, my 6-month-old, they wouldn't let me breastfeed him. And he was pulling out his hair at night, in the middle of the night, screaming, pulling out his hair. I mean, how is that good for the child?
No, Arizona calls that enmeshment, guys. My case is riddled. Both of my cases is riddled that my kids are enmeshed because they would lay in bed at night and cry for me. All of them would cry for me.
I would like
I'm enmeshed with my children, according to them.
Well, you're supposed to be. You're their parent. I mean, that's the whole point. You're genetically
But it's unhealthy,
enmeshed.
according to CPS, guys. But apparently, they don't understand family units and how they really work.
Wow.
Because they're not trained.
My son has.
joined
My son
chronic
has. What is that where they get? It's not separation anxiety. It's another thing. Another diagnosis. I forget what it's called. My son was diagnosed with it because when I'd leave him, he would break windows and stuff. That's my older son. He would try to get to me.
Yeah.
So that was devastating. It was devastating because he would literally break. He wanted to run away, and I had to convince him not to run away because they threatened to put my ass in prison if he ran away.
Wow. I would
Yeah,
like
my
to
child's having anger issues because of CPS.
How old's your son?
He's 10, turning 11, so he'll be 11
mine-
next year.
Mine's 23 now, and yeah, he's a fucked up mess. I apologize, guys, but it's just flat out. I'm not gonna lie.
It destroys them.
He was
Yes.
put in custody at 15 years old. He was forced to fight for his food in the group home. He was forced to fight for everything. If he lost a fight, the group home staff members would beat them up against walls and stuff, and then say the other kids beat him up. Yeah, my son's got a lot of abuse stuff that happened to him, and he won't tell me if he was molested there or not. He just won't open up.
Juvenile detention centers are the worst for children because, I mean, they allow them to do whatever they want to do, and it's not right.
Yeah. So,
You haven't been to Arizona's juvenile detention centers, and you haven't been to Copper Canyon here, which they destroy kids. They destroy kids. The kids, when they get out, they're so institutionalized, and they are so, well, the kids that had never been put through that, they are so afraid of the world.
Well, they end up homeless as well.
yes, I'm sorry that there's a new guest here. Hello.
It's Veronica.
Veronica.
I called
you're
in.
back. You're on your phone. Well, thank you for coming back.
Yes.
Misty was
Okay.
wanting
My son David was abused by the administrators of the school. Okay. The principal was caught straddled on top of him in the middle of the hallway. I had 5 fifth graders come tell me. And here I get called in because he gave his aide a fat bloody lip. I didn't even know what happened. I described exactly what happened to the principal. And he's like, well, yeah. I said, the aide restrained him, had him on her lap, and my son took his head and whipped her with his head to get loose from her. I said, it's her own stupidity. I said, but I hear what David does, but I never hear what you did. And he gives me this look. I said, oh, no, don't give me that look.
Uh-oh.
And I said to the teacher, I said, now, didn't somebody come up to David in the bathroom? He didn't recognize the gentleman? And so the teacher tells him what happened. I said, and you were caught straddled on top of my son in the middle of the hallway by 5 fifth graders. I said, them and their parents are ready to go to Winona Police Station to file assault charges. Put your hands on my kid again, and that's exactly what's going to happen. Do I make myself clear? I took in the paperwork where Matthew was born disabled, and everything I had early intervention in my home and everything. That's when they got scared. And that's when they made the phone call saying, David hit him. No, David never touched anybody. David was afraid.
So
He was being assaulted by administrators of the school.
So the lesson
And
here
FB
for parents is that if your child is assaulted at school by anybody that is like a public educator or staff supervisor or principal or anybody that has anything to do that is an adult, and your child has been assaulted, file those assault charges. Don't hesitate.
I know that now.
Well,
I
no,
know.
your
I'm
best
here to
solution.
talk and help parents who are going to be watching this, because I will be editing, but I will be sharing this information, because the whole point of the parent advocate meetings is to help parents who don't know what to do.
Well, there's a civil tort for intentional infliction of emotional harm. That any time that someone causes emotional harm to a child or any person, they're open to civil liability and an intentional infliction of emotional harm civil tort. And so that would be in civil tort. Those papers you can file anywhere, and pretty much after you file that, then they have to initiate that proceeding. So pretty much I would think that would be the remedy being civil, but I mean, assault is punishable in a criminal court, and it's criminal.
Yeah, it's criminal.
It don't only hold civil, so it's also criminal.
Actually, child abuse should be, when we're accused of child abuse, that shouldn't be going to family court. That should be going to criminal court. Okay? Because the judge threw all evidence out. 2 different investigations under the same case number. That's illegal. Then the social worker brought up my mental status. Tried to have me locked up in a psych ward. Didn't work. I got out. Okay. The judge wrote that there was paperwork. Okay, you just broke your oath again. And I just recently found this out. Okay. And Typhus was stupid enough to come after me June of this year with the same damn case number. I'm going after him full blast for everything. Because June 30th, June 22nd this year, there was an emergent hearing. They just showed up at my hotel door, and I slammed the door in her face. I told them they weren't coming in and seeing my kids. They showed up at 9:30 at night. I know when they come at that time at night exactly what they're doing. Okay, so and they told me to call my sister who was an attorney. I said, you don't want me calling her, because the judge was dumb enough to tell me June 30th that I have 2 family members that are attorneys. Ask them what I have to do. I said, you want me to tell you? I'm going to tell you exactly right now. State of New Jersey, you cannot come into my residence unless you have a court order or a warrant. I said, you just spoke to my children. Do you see any signs of abuse? And she looked at me. I said, no, you don't. So you cannot force me to work with DCP&P, because that's what they're called now instead of DIFUS.
Wow.
I said, so you're not going to tell me to work with them, because my family that are lawyers told me that I don't have to. And then I told her what my sister went through in working with CPS in Indiana. I said, so do you really want me to call them and ask them? I requested ADA accommodations and I was denied. Now, my husband never brought up that I have a rare form of muscular dystrophy that only 228 people in the world have. He only brought up my bipolar. Never brought up that I have PTSD since 2004, and I have a letter from my doctor stating all this. So I'm going under fraud under the court under 60D, because charged child support in the amount of $252 a week when I had no income, negative $14,952. The next judge changes it to TANF. That's illegal. You all broke your oath. Has welfare there instead of DIFUS. Hello? And the DIFUS worker says she did not break her oath. She told the truth. Really? The judge did this because she realized she already violated my federal ADA rights in November 7th, 2012. So she had to doctor these paperwork. Despite the fact that my father sat in court and my advocate threw all the evidence out, so nobody came back to hear the verdict, not even my husband and his lawyer. And I said the lawyer was a problem because the other lawyer in the firm was our bankruptcy lawyer. So he shouldn't. And here, my husband was stupid enough to tell me his lawyer knew the judge was crooked. I found out how, because I printed out all the judges in the state of New Jersey for Connie Rigoli. Here, the lawyer is now a judge in Jersey. So that's how his lawyer knew the judge was crooked.
So
and I have
Veronica,
gotten other parents
so
together.
Veronica, what I would like to bring in at this point, we do only have 10 minutes left of this second hour.
Okay.
And what I would like to point out at this point is there is a movement for the crooked judges to be prosecuted and removed from their seats. And what you have just brought up is a very important point, which is that when judges are removed from their seat in court, you have lawyers taking and assuming that position, and those lawyers, there's no guarantee that those lawyers are any more credible than the judge that was removed. So
Exactly, because my husband's lawyer put down that my spousal support was alimony and that my husband was paying me child support in the amount of $289. And this judge actually had the nerve to write that there was a reason for this to be reheard again, when she made the $289 child support to the state. Now, I was getting $450 spousal support because I'm permanently disabled. I couldn't support myself. He didn't think he needed to support me because the kids weren't there.
So
The judge told him we have a long-term marriage.
ADA is supposed to protect parents with disabilities. It did not protect me, and I'm a parent with disabilities. It doesn't protect parents with disabilities like it's supposed to, and that's because the accountability isn't there. With the last 8 minutes, I would like everybody to please consider just a short ending statement, and I thank you all for joining tonight. I do apologize to those of you who came and were unable to speak, but those who have not been able to speak, if you want to just say a little something in closing.
Yeah, I just want to say something real quick. The judicial oath of office and the judicial bond, they're two separate things, but they go hand in hand. What the judicial bond is, for liability in regards to the judicial misconduct, and it's like insurance, it's a bond. Then there's the judicial oath of office. The oath of office is their job. So pretty much you take those two and you file a federal claim against those two in a federal court, and it taints them because that's now public information. Public information is going to be showed to all of the public. So any of the officials in that state is not going to want to hire them. So they're not going to be working again anywhere. So that's the first thing that needs to be done. Second, Francesca has a big thing about, Francesca is a woman who's going about judging the judges, and she has a big operation going right now, and it's big. She has a billboard and everything. So I would get a hold of Francesca. She knows a lot more than I do about the judicial oath of office and the judicial bond. So that's who you would contact.
It's called Punished number 4 for being a parent.
Yes.
I'm highly involved with her.
Yeah,
And I suggest she's got a TV show in California. She's got a TV show in New York. She's got a federal lawsuit going in New York for all the parents right now. And
Absolutely.
You got to get in touch with her, and that's why I post her.
Absolutely.
And I highly recommend her. She is coming. She's in Pennsylvania right now, but she's coming to Jersey. And I've got Connie Rigoli coming to Jersey to help me talk to special needs parents about what their rights are about not letting these people in their doors.
right. And Fernando has provided some like poster flyers that I'm going to be publishing soon, showing like something you can actually post on your door about unlawful search and seizure that people, nobody can come into your house that is a public officer or a police officer. When you have that notice on there and you tell them, this notice is very visibly placed here and you have no right to enter my property, period.
That property is covered by that paper. And
Yeah.
you place that on the door and you say that's your legal notice. Pretty much they cannot enter at that point. If you have a gate, I would put it preferably on the gate or outside the gate. Then I would have a latch, because if it latches, the gate latches, it's considered a lock. So if they open the latch, they're breaking and entering. But the thing is, that thing I would just post that, to the group, so that way everyone can see that.
I will, absolutely. But I also want to have a printable copy on the coalition site so that parents can go there at any time to get it.
Right.
It's a little confusing when you go on Facebook to get information off of there if you haven't been up to speed on everything. So
I so agree.
the last 4 minutes, those who haven't spoken, if you would like to add a little comment, now would be a great time.
I'm going to jump in here. Thanks, Lyra. Hi, everybody, and hi, Stephanie. I'm hoping we can set up a meeting maybe tomorrow or the next day and do us gals regarding this, but regarding something else that we've already discussed. But anyway, so maybe. So what I wanted to say is that I'm interested in finding the solutions to healing to share with other people after the separation has occurred with your children. I've found it's extremely difficult. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. And even if it's just temporary, it can affect you for a long time, and they don't pay attention to that. They're just doing this stuff and they don't care how much damage it's causing, and it's, long term in a lot of cases. And so I'm just interested in finding that healing and for myself and others. And so that's all I want to say for right now, just because this whole process has just really caused me to do a lot of soul searching on how the right way to proceed is. And the system is a beast. So it truly is a beast. And so for myself, I'm in the middle of deciding if I want to take on the system or if I want to just wash my hands of it all and not acknowledge it. And I know that a lot of you parents aren't in the same position, you know, that I am in. What's happened to me is done. There'll be no getting back my child. There'll be, you know, that it's okay, she's older and all that. So I'm in a little different position. But I do have a case. I am interested in one thing, though, is if there are attorneys who are interested in looking at some of these, this is personal injury at its height. And, you know, I could imagine.
PTSD by CPS. PTSD.
Well, or separation, wrongful separation of child or something. Because it's not always CPS that did it.
No, that's true.
Yeah.
Thank
So we got
you.
family court. Thank you. I love you guys. Look forward to talking to you again.
And
Also, parental alienation. Parental alienation is also a crime. It's also child abuse.
yes. And they don't want to look at that at all. They want to say, no, the child just didn't want to be with you.
Yep.
Well, the only reason that child didn't want to be with me is because every time I saw that child, they had to leave after a short visit and they got frustrated.
Also, the pressure that's put on the children by these officials is unnecessary, and then they feel like they've done something wrong or their parents done something wrong, and it's not necessarily the case.
No, that's right.
Okay. I had the judge talk to my two boys, and my 12-year-old autistic son told her that he did not want to live with his father. He wanted to stay with me, and she told me she did not care what he wanted.
And they don't.
On June 30th.
Right. And they don't.
And I know. And that's why I'm going after them.
And Stephanie would like to say a little something.
Yes.
Hi.
Yes.
Okay.
Hi, everybody. I would. I'm just coming in right when Misty started speaking. I still have young ones up, and I apologize for that, but I just had to be present.
Thank you.
I've been through. Thank you all. I've been through